Admiral Frank Carter felt the weight of history on his shoulders as he stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant. The blue glow from the ship's displays lit up his face, showing every line earned from 20 years of hiding Earth's true plans. On the main screen, red dots moved closer. The ships of the Galactic Empire, or as they called themselves, the hegemony of Allied worlds. Sir, enemy fleet approaching Neptune defense line. 53 ships detected, said Lieutenant Olivia Mitchell. Her voice stayed calm, but her knuckles turned white as she gripped her console. Carter nodded. How long until they reach us? 20 minutes, sir. The bridge fell silent. For 2 decades, Earth had bowed to these aliens. They came with smiles and promises of friendship, but quickly showed their true nature. The hegemony took Earth's resources, drafted humans into their armies, and treated Earth like just another conquered world. But not anymore. Not today. Carter walked to the center of the bridge. The crew watched him. Young men and women who had trained in secret for this moment. Status of the Neptune line? He asked. Chief Engineer Bill Rogers looked up from his station. All systems ready, sir. Defense platforms are powered up and waiting for your command. And our fleet? 8 ships in position behind Saturn. Another 12 hidden in Jupiter's orbit. All crews report ready. Carter nodded. 20 ships against 53. The odds weren't good, if this came down to a normal battle. But today wasn't going to be normal. Attention all hands, Carter said, his voice carrying throughout the ship. For 20 years we've prepared for this day. We've smiled at our oppressors while building the tools to break their chains. Today Earth stands up. A small cheer went through the bridge crew. Communications. Open a channel to the hegemony fleet. All frequencies. Jack Nelson, the communications officer, worked his console. Channel open, sir. They can hear you. Carter took a deep breath. This is Admiral Frank Carter of the United Earth Defense Force. You are approaching restricted space. By Earth Council Resolution 7729, no Galactic Empire vessels are permitted beyond Neptune. Turn back now. The main screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. High Chancellor Zorlak had blue skin stretched tight over sharp bones. 6 yellow eyes blinked at different times as he looked at Carter with clear disgust. Admiral Carter, the alien said, his voice transformed by the universal translator. Your message is amusing. Earth belongs to the hegemony. You have no authority to restrict our movements. Carter stood straighter. Earth belongs to humans, Chancellor. Your tribute ships will not land on our world today or any day going forward. Zorlak's mouth formed what might have been a smile on a human, but on his face looked more like a threat. With what power do you make such bold claims? Your primitive weapons? Your handful of ships? The hegemony rules 12,000 worlds. Earth is just one small planet. Numbers aren't everything, Chancellor, Carter said. Quality matters more than quantity. Laughter came through the speakers, a clicking, unpleasant sound. Your species has always been entertaining. That's why we've kept you around despite your rebellious nature. Carter didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he nodded to Susan Grant at the weapons console. Lieutenant, activate the Neptune line. Yes, sir. Grant's fingers tapped a sequence of commands. Out in space, hidden platforms orbiting Neptune hummed to life. Energy flowed between them, creating an invisible web. Then suddenly the space between Neptune and Uranus changed. It shimmered like heat rising from hot pavement, rippling and bending light. What is this trick? Zorlak demanded, leaning forward. No trick, Chancellor, Carter said. This is the barrier. For 20 years we've studied your technology while pretending to be simple followers. We've learned more than you ever suspected. Impossible. Zorlak slammed a 6-fingered hand on something off-screen. Your species lacks the scientific understanding to create such a defense. Carter allowed himself a small smile. Never underestimate humans when their freedom is at stake. The barrier is a quantum field that disrupts any drive system attempting to pass through it. Your ships can't cross it. If they try, they'll be dead in space. You lie. Zorlak's yellow eyes narrowed. Carter shrugged. Test it if you want. On a secondary screen, Carter watched as a small ship broke from the hegemony fleet. It shot forward, clearly intending to prove Earth's claim false. The scout ship hit the shimmering barrier at full speed. Blue energy crackled around its hull. Its engines flared bright, then went completely dark. The ship drifted, powerless. Silence filled the bridge of the USS Defiant. Even Zorlak said nothing, his 6 eyes wide with shock. "As you can see," Carter finally said, "this isn't a bluff. The Neptune line is now Earth's border. No hegemony ships will cross it. This is rebellion." Zorlak found his voice. "The hegemony will not tolerate—" "This isn't rebellion, Chancellor," Carter interrupted. "This is independence. Earth is reclaiming what was always ours." "You'll regret this," Zorlak hissed. "I will return with the main battle fleet. We will crush your barrier and your world." Carter leaned forward. "If you come back with more ships, you'll find we have more surprises. The barrier is just one of many weapons we've developed." Behind him, the bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. They knew the barrier was their main defense. The other weapons Carter mentioned were still in development, not ready for use. But Zorlak didn't need to know that. 20 years as part of our glorious empire, and this is how you repay our generosity? Zorlak's voice dripped with anger. "Generosity?" Carter let out a short laugh. "Taking our resources, drafting our people into your armies, controlling our government, that's not generosity, Chancellor. That's oppression." The alien's face darkened to a deeper blue. "You will regret this day, human." "Actually," Carter said, "this is the first day in 20 years that I don't regret anything. End transmission." The screen went black. Carter turned to face his crew. "They're pulling back," Mitchell reported, watching her tactical display. "The entire fleet is retreating toward Saturn's orbit." A cheer went up around the bridge. Carter raised his hand for quiet. "This isn't over," he reminded them. "Zorlak will be back with more ships, but today, Earth has shown that humans won't be pushed around anymore. Today we've drawn a line in space and said no further." Rogers spoke up from engineering. "What happens when they return with their battle fleet, sir?" Carter looked around at the faces of his crew, young, hopeful, and scared. "Then we show them what else humans have been working on while pretending to be good servants of the Empire." As the hegemony ships retreated, Carter watched the barrier shimmer between Neptune and Uranus. After 20 years of planning in secret, Earth had finally said no to its oppressors. It was just the beginning of a dangerous path, but for the first time in 2 decades, it was Earth making choices for itself. Freedom was worth any risk. 1 mile beneath the rebuilt city of Denver, President Alicia Ramos sat in Earth's most secure room. The War Center was a large circular space with screens covering every wall. In the middle stood a round table where Earth's leaders now gathered. Ramos watched the big map showing the space around Neptune. The red dots of enemy ships had moved back, away from Earth's new barrier. "They stopped at Saturn's rings," said General Paul Wright, pointing at the screen. "But our spies say they sent messages, asking for help. Their big war fleet will be here in about 3 weeks." Ramos looked around the table at the tired faces of her team. For 20 years they had worked in secret, building Earth's defenses while pretending to accept alien rule. Now the truth was out, and everything hung in the balance. "Dr. Patel, will our barrier hold?" Ramos asked. Nora Patel, a small woman with determined eyes, nodded. "The Neptune line is stable, but we can't make it bigger right now. We need more power sources to extend it. And if they bring their whole fleet? If they attack from different directions?" The room grew quiet. Everyone knew the barrier was only their first line of defense. If the hegemony brought their full force, Earth would need something more. Ramos turned to a plain-looking man sitting at the end of the table. Dr. Greg Howard didn't look special. He wore simple clothes and rarely spoke. But for 15 years he had worked on Earth's ultimate defense. "Dr. Howard, is Project Leviathan ready?" Ramos asked. Howard looked up. His voice was soft but clear. "Yes, Madam President. Leviathan is operational. We can use it if we have to." No one spoke. Everyone in the room knew what Leviathan was, Not just a weapon, but something that could change the galaxy forever. Something that might save Earth, but would make humans feared across the stars. Ramos stood up and walked around the table. I want to avoid using Leviathan if possible. The hegemony has ruled thousands of worlds for centuries. They've never faced anyone who stood up to them. Maybe they'll listen to reason now. Vice President Henry Coleman shook his head. People who control others don't give up power just because you ask nicely. But they do understand strength. We need to make sure they know we're serious. Why, how do we do that? Asked General Wright. Ramos stopped walking. A plan formed in her mind. The hegemony controls its people with lies. They probably haven't told their citizens about our barrier. They likely say Earth is just being difficult. So what do we do? Asked Patel. We tell the truth, Ramos said. Not just to their leaders, but to everyone in their empire. We use their own communication network to broadcast our message to all their worlds. Coleman smiled for the first time in days. Brilliant. Their leaders can ignore us, but they can't ignore billions of their own people asking questions. Prepare a broadcast, Ramos ordered. I want to speak to every being in the hegemony. 2 days later, Ramos stood before a camera in her office. Behind her hung the Earth flag, showing all the continents united as one. She wore a simple blue suit, her gray-streaked hair pulled back neatly. Ready when you are, Madam President, said the communications officer. Ramos took a deep breath. This message might bring peace or war. There was no middle ground now. Begin transmission. Across thousands of worlds and billions of screens, her face appeared. In homes and public spaces, beings of hundreds of different species stopped to watch, as the universal translators converted her words to their languages. People of the hegemony, she began. I am President Alicia Ramos of Earth. For 20 years, my world has been forced to give your empire our resources and our people's labor. We have watched as other worlds were stripped of their wealth and freedom. Today, that ends. She leaned forward slightly, her voice growing stronger. Earth has sealed its borders. The Neptune line now marks the edge of Earth space. No hegemony. Ships may cross it. We seek no war, no revenge, no empire of our own. We want only to be free. Images appeared beside her face. The barrier in action, the disabled scout ship, Earth's small but ready fleet. Your leaders may tell you we are rebels who must be crushed. They may not have told you that we have developed technologies they thought impossible for us. But know this. If your High Chancellor chooses war, we will defend ourselves with weapons that will shake the stars themselves. Her expression softened slightly. Ask yourselves, how many must die for the pride of your leaders? How many worlds must suffer so the hegemony can rule one more planet? We believe most beings in the galaxy want peace. We hope your leaders choose the same. She straightened. This is the voice of free Earth. We await your response. The transmission ended. In her office, Ramos collapsed into her chair. Now we wait, she said to no one in particular. The wait wasn't long. Zorlak's response came the next day. Threats of destruction, promises of punishment. Earth's leaders had expected nothing less. But 3 days after the broadcast, something unexpected happened. A message arrived not from Zorlak, but from the Grand Council of the Hegemony, the group of beings who officially ruled the Empire, though Zorlak had controlled them for years. Coleman rushed into the president's office without knocking. Madam, President, you need to see this. On her screen appeared a different alien face, older, wiser-looking than Zorlak. President Ramos of Earth, the alien said. I am Senior Counselor Varex of the Hegemony Grand Council. Your message has caused much discussion among our people and our leaders. Some call for war. Others suggest we listen to your words. The alien paused. The High Chancellor has strong opinions about Earth's declaration. But the Council believes wisdom is better than haste. Therefore, bypassing Chancellor Zorlak's authority, we have decided to open direct talks with your government. Varex's many eyes blinked slowly. We wish to negotiate. When the message ended, Ramos and Coleman stared at each other in shock. Worked, Coleman whispered. They're actually willing to talk. Ramos nodded slowly. Yes, but this creates a new problem. Zorlak won't accept being bypassed. He'll see this as a challenge to his power. What does that mean for us? Ramos walked to her window, looking out at the rebuilt Denver skyline. It means, she said quietly, that we now have two enemies instead of one. Zorlak will want to destroy us to save face while the Council wants to talk. Earth just got caught in a hegemony power struggle. She turned back to Coleman. Tell Dr. Howard to be ready. I think we're going to need Leviathan after all. Between Neptune and Saturn floated a small space station. It had been built quickly, a plain metal tube with rooms inside where humans and aliens could meet. They called it neutral ground. Inside the main room, Secretary of State Doug Miller led Earth's team. Across from him sat Counselor Vina, a tall alien with purple skin and 4 arms. She wasn't Zorlak, the angry High Chancellor. She represented the more moderate aliens on the hegemony's Grand Council. Your barrier technology has caused much trouble for us, Vina said. Her voice sounded musical, even through the translator. Many worlds are asking why Earth can say no to us while they cannot. Miller kept his face calm, but inside he felt a spark of hope. Earth's broadcast had worked better than they'd expected. Freedom often spreads once people see it's possible, he said simply. Vina's face tightened. The High Chancellor demands, you take down your barrier and give us its technology. Admiral Kelly Baker, sitting next to Miller, spoke up. That's not going to happen. But we are ready to discuss fair trade. Earth can be a partner instead of a subject. The talks went on like this for 5 days. Earth wouldn't give up its freedom. The aliens couldn't go home without something to show. They kept hitting the same wall over and over. Miller was tired. He rubbed his eyes and looked around the room, at the mix of humans and aliens. No one seemed happy. Perhaps we should break for today, he suggested. Before Vina could answer, a young lieutenant named Ryan Phillips burst into the room. His face was pale with fear. Sir, hegemony battleships are moving toward Earth, he shouted. They're ignoring the Neptune line completely. Miller turned to Vina in anger. Is this how you conduct peace talks? By sneaking your warships toward our world? But the alien looked as shocked as Miller felt. This is not our doing, she said. Her communications device made a soft noise. She looked at it and her purple skin turned almost white. This is madness, she whispered. High Chancellor Zorlak has declared military rule across the Empire. He's trying to take full control from the Council. And he's ordered Earth destroyed as an example to other worlds. Miller felt cold fear in his stomach. He's willing to kill billions just to stay in power? Zorlak believes absolute control is the only way to rule, Vina said. He will crush any sign of freedom to keep his position. Miller activated his secure line to Earth. Madam President, Zorlak has gone rogue. His fleet is moving against us, bypassing the Neptune line. President Ramos's voice came through clearly. Understood. We have no choice now. We're activating Leviathan. As he ended the call, Miller turned back to Vina. You should contact your council. Tell them to get any loyal ships away from Earth immediately. What are you going to do? Vina asked, real fear in her voice. Miller just said, survive. On Mars, inside a mountain that had been hollowed out and filled with the most advanced technology humans had ever built, Dr. Greg Howard stood before a simple red button. For 15 years, he had worked on Project Leviathan. It wasn't a bomb or a laser or any normal weapon. It was something much more creative and much more dangerous. Status report, Howard said to his team. All satellites in position, reported his assistant. Power levels at maximum. Target zone, defined as Sol system boundaries. Howard looked at the screen showing Zorlak's ships approaching Earth. They were still hours away, but moving fast. Dr. Howard, came President Ramos's voice over the speakers. Is Leviathan ready? Yes, Madam President, we can activate at your command. There was a brief silence. Howard knew what Ramos was thinking. Once they used Leviathan, the galaxy would never be the same. Humans would be seen as either saviors or monsters, depending on who was telling the story. "You have authorization," Ramos finally said. "Activate Leviathan." Howard pressed the red button. Across the solar system, normal-looking satellites that had been placed over years suddenly activated. They formed a perfect network, linking in ways that even most humans didn't understand. They didn't target ships, or weapons, or planets. They targeted something more basic, the very physics that allowed faster-than-light travel. When Leviathan activated, every hegemony ship within the solar system suddenly found itself trapped. Their faster-than-light drives burned out permanently. They could still move using normal engines, but the journey back to their homeworlds would now take thousands of years instead of hours. In an instant, without firing a single shot, Earth had neutralized the invasion fleet. On the hegemony flagship, High Chancellor Zorlak screamed in rage as alarms blared around him. "What happened to our drives?" he demanded. The ship's engineer trembled. "They're just gone, sir. Something burned them out completely. We can't jump to light speed." "Fix them? I don't think that's possible, sir. Whatever the humans did, it changed how the drives interact with space itself. We're stuck at normal speed." Zorlak's 6 eyes narrowed to slits. "How far are we from home at normal speed?" The navigator's voice was barely a whisper. "At maximum, sub-light speed, 7,000 years, sir." For the first time in his long life, Zorlak felt true fear. Not just for himself, but for his empire. If humans could do this, "Send a message to all ships," he ordered. "Find a way to reverse this. There must be a way." But deep down, he knew the truth. The humans had outplayed him. With one move, they had taken his invasion fleet off the board without killing anyone. It was the most elegant military victory he had ever seen, and the most terrifying. Back on neutral, Ground Miller watched the screens as Zorlak's ships drifted harmlessly, unable to reach Earth or go home. "What did you do to them?" Vina asked, her voice filled with awe. "Project Leviathan," Miller explained. "It doesn't harm people. It just changes the rules of faster-than-light travel in a limited area. Zorlak's ships are fine. Their crews are fine. They just can't use their jump drives anymore. They're trapped," Vina realized. "Thousands of light years from home with no way to return." Miller nodded. "We'll offer to take them to the nearest hegemony outpost using our own ships, once we've negotiated peace terms. We don't want to destroy them, we just want to be left alone." Vina stared at him. "All this time you could have used this weapon against our homeworlds. You could have crippled the entire hegemony." "That's not who we are," Miller said simply. "We don't want to rule anyone. We just don't want to be ruled." Vina was quiet for a long moment. Then she activated her communication device. "This is Counselor Vina to all hegemony ships loyal to the Grand Council. High Chancellor Zorlak has been removed from power for acts of war without Council approval. I am assuming temporary command by Council order." She looked at Miller. "The Hegemony Grand Council formally recognizes Earth's independence and right to self-defense. We request immediate peace talks." As Vina spoke, on dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy, other alien species watched what had happened. They saw how Earth had stood up to the mighty hegemony and won without massive bloodshed. They saw that freedom was possible, and one by one, they began to stand up too. 1 year had passed since Earth stood up to the hegemony. 1 year since Project Leviathan had trapped Zorlak's invasion fleet. 1 year of freedom. The city of Nairobi gleamed in the morning sun. Once damaged by hegemony peacekeeping actions, it now stood rebuilt and stronger than ever. In the center of the city rose the new United Nations building, a tower of glass and steel that reached toward the stars. Inside the main hall, beings from 23 different worlds gathered. Some had fins, some had wings, some had tentacles, or 6 legs or no legs at all. But all shared one thing. They had been under hegemony control until Earth showed them freedom was possible. President Alicia Ramos walked onto the stage. Her hair had more gray than a year ago, but she moved with the same confidence. The room fell silent. 1 year ago, she began, Earth stood alone against a power that ruled thousands of worlds. We were just one small planet saying no to an empire. Today we stand together as free worlds, united not by force but by choice. The crowd applauded, a strange mix of sounds as different species showed approval in different ways. Some clapped hands, others stomped feet or vibrated specialized organs. The document before us today is called the Soul Accords, Ramos continued. It creates an alliance of independent worlds, not an empire, not a place where the strong rule the weak, but a community where all voices matter. She gestured to where former High Chancellor Zorlak sat under guard. After Leviathan trapped his fleet, loyal hegemony forces had captured him. Now he awaited trial for war crimes. The old way of ruling through fear is over, Ramos said. The being who ordered Earth's destruction now faces justice before a court representing all our worlds, and the empire he led is being reborn as a confederation of equals. At the front of the audience sat Counselor Vina, now the leader of the reformed hegemony worlds. She nodded at Ramos's words. Today we sign a treaty that guarantees the rights of all beings, Ramos said. A treaty that promises mutual defense, fair trade, and respect for all cultures. This is the future we choose. One by one, representatives from each world came forward to sign the document. Humans, aliens with 6 arms, floating gas-filled beings, creatures that looked like walking trees, all made their marks on the treaty. When the signing finished, the crowd erupted in celebration. The Soul Accords were now official. A new order had begun. Far from Earth, the USS Defiant sailed through the darkness of space. Once a warship ready for battle, it now carried a different mission, exploration and diplomacy. On the observation deck, Admiral Frank Carter stood beside Lieutenant Olivia Mitchell. Through the large window, they watched the ceremony on Earth via holographic display. Did you ever think we'd see this day? Mitchell asked. When Earth would lead a galactic alliance? Carter shook his head. Honestly? No. I thought we'd be lucky, just to win our freedom. I never expected all this. What made the difference? Mitchell asked. Why did Earth succeed when so many other worlds failed? Carter thought about it. Maybe it was because we never wanted to rule anyone else. We just wanted to be free, and that idea spread faster than any fleet could travel. The Defiant passed through the Neptune line, the barrier now turned off for friendly ships. Beyond lay the vast galaxy, filled with worlds to explore and civilizations to meet. The hegemony ruled through fear and technology, Carter said, but they became lazy. They stopped inventing new things because they thought they knew everything already. Meanwhile, humans kept creating, adapting, finding new ways to solve problems. Mitchell smiled. Like Leviathan, using physics against them instead of weapons. Exactly. We showed the galaxy there are always new ways to solve old problems. An alert sounded, and Mitchell checked her console. Sir, we're receiving a distress call from the Arcturus system. A colony world is reporting strange energy readings near their moon. Carter nodded. Set course for Arcturus. Maximum speed. As the Defiant changed direction, Carter took one last look at the celebration on Earth. One chapter had ended. A new one was beginning. In a quiet corner of the reception hall in Nairobi, President Ramos found a moment alone with Vina. Your people seem to have adapted well to the changes, Ramos observed. Vina nodded. Better than I expected. After centuries of rule by force, many were ready for something new. Zorlak and his supporters are a minority now. And the technology? How are your scientists handling the loss of faster-than-light travel in some sectors? They're learning, Vina said. Your Dr. Howard has been very helpful, showing us how Leviathan works so we can avoid creating similar problems elsewhere. It's humbling for a civilization that thought it knew everything about space travel. Ramos sipped her drink. We're still learning, too. That's the point of the Soul Accords. We all have something to teach each other. There's one thing I still don't understand, Vina said. You could have used Leviathan against our homeworlds. You could have trapped our entire civilization in normal space, ended our ability to maintain our empire. Why didn't you? Ramos looked out at the crowd of different species talking, laughing, and building connections. Because domination isn't our goal, she said simply. Even when we had the power to cripple you completely, that's not what we wanted. We just wanted to live free and let others do the same. Vina was quiet for a moment. Perhaps that's why the old hegemony never truly understood humans. We saw your kindness as weakness, your restraint as fear. We never realized these were choices, not limitations. The strongest person isn't the one who can hurt others, Ramos said. It's the one who chooses not to, even when they have the power. Vina looked at the Earth president with new respect. I believe humans will teach us much in the coming years. As the reception continued far above Earth, ships from 24 worlds floated in orbit. Among them was a small vessel from a planet, called Rigel IV. Its captain, Zorn, watched Earth through his viewport. So this is the world that brought down the hegemony, he said to his first officer. It looks so small, so blue, so insignificant. Yet they did what no one else dared. For 10,000 years, his officer replied. The captain nodded. And now they lead the Soul Accords, an alliance that grows stronger each day. He paused. What do you think of these humans? They are strange, the officer said. They could have ruled the stars after defeating Zorlak. Instead, they speak of cooperation and mutual respect. Yes, the captain said thoughtfully. Perhaps that is why they are dangerous, not because they wish to conquer, but because they make us question whether we need to be conquered at all. As he spoke, the ship passed a series of beacons floating in Earth orbit. The beacons broadcast a simple message in 50 languages, repeating endlessly. Notice to all vessels. By order of the Soul Accords, any ship operating under hegemony military authority is forbidden from entering this system. Earth stands free and will remain so. It was no longer just a human message. It had become the rallying cry for free worlds throughout the galaxy. The stars themselves had changed because one small planet had dared to say no. Franco.